Why did God try to kill Moses? Yes, you heard that right. The same God who called Moses at the burning bush, the same God who handpicked him to lead Israel out of Egypt, almost killed him right after. Let that sink in. God called him and then tried to wipe him out. You won't hear this in Sunday school. You won't hear this from your pastor. Because this story, it doesn't fit the God is always smiling version of Christianity most people are comfortable with. But we're not here to play it safe. Let's rewind Exodus chapter 4. Moses has just had a supernatural encounter. He's seen the burning bush, heard the voice of God, received his mission. He's terrified, insecure, doubtful, but finally, reluctantly, he obeys. He packs up his family and starts the journey back to Egypt, ready to confront Pharaoh. And then, boom. Out of nowhere in verse 24 it says, "At a lodging place on the way, the Lord met Moses and sought to kill him." What? Why would God give him a mission and then try to end his life? That one verse shatters everything we thought we knew about divine calling. But the next verse drops the missing piece. Then Zipporah took a flint knife, cut off her son's foreskin, and touched Moses' feet with it, and the Lord let him alone. Yes, you heard that correctly. God's anger was tied to circumcision. But this isn't just about a ritual. It's about blood, covenant, rebellion, and divine justice. To understand this moment, we have to go way back to God's covenant with Abraham in Genesis 17. Circumcision wasn't just tradition, it was a blood sign of identity, a spiritual boundary line between those who belong to Yahweh and everyone else. Moses, raised in Pharaoh's palace, educated in Egyptian temples, trained in royal etiquette, and married to a Midianite priest's daughter, had blurred the lines. He wasn't fully in obedience. His firstborn son, Gershom, had not been circumcised. That was rebellion. That was negligence. That was a man trying to lead God's people without first submitting himself or his house to the covenant. God doesn't play politics with leadership. He doesn't negotiate obedience. Ancient culture clash. Let's get real. Moses had an identity crisis. He was born a Hebrew but raised an Egyptian. He looked like them, talked like them, thought like them. For 40 years, he lived under Pharaoh's gods, Pharaoh's laws, and Pharaoh's worldview. In Egypt, circumcision was practiced, but it wasn't spiritual. It was about class, military rank, and hygiene, not covenant with the Most High. So when Moses skipped circumcising his own son, he wasn't just disobeying a rule, he was acting like an Egyptian. And God said, if you're going to lead my people, you can't play both sides. You can't confront Pharaoh with a house that's out of order. Zipporah's bloody act. Now let's talk about Zipporah, a Midianite woman, daughter of a priest. She wasn't Hebrew. She didn't grow up with Yahweh's laws, but she understood something Moses didn't act on. When God's wrath fell on her husband, she didn't call for help. She didn't cry. She took a knife, performed the circumcision herself, and touched Moses with the blood. Let that picture haunt you for a moment. The future deliverer of Israel was saved by a woman with a blade and a child's blood. That's not poetic. That's raw. That's a picture of what was to come. Blood, sacrifice, obedience, and deliverance. Sound familiar? Let me say something that may offend religious minds. Moses was about to lead a spiritual revolution while his house was out of order. God wouldn't have it. This story isn't about a minor mistake. It's about spiritual authority. You can't confront demons with disobedience in your tent. You can't preach holiness with compromise in your family. You can't carry the rod of God and ignore the blood of the covenant. And some of you watching this, God has called you, yes, but He's also confronting you. You're asking for your destiny while avoiding your obedience. You're crying for breakthrough, but your house is uncovered. Now, if this video just punched you in the gut, good. Tell me I'm wrong in the comments. Disagree, debate, wrestle. This is what the Bible was made for. Don't just scroll, engage, like, comment, and subscribe if you want more raw, unfiltered, truth-heavy content like this. Stay tuned because we're going to be explaining how Moses stood between two worlds. Remember, Moses wasn't just any man, He was a Hebrew raised as an Egyptian, chosen to deliver a people who were spiritually asleep. And the line between Hebrew and Egyptian wasn't just about location. It was about covenant versus culture. The Hebrews were slaves, yes, but their identity was tied to Yahweh's promises. The Egyptians were powerful, wealthy, and wise, but they were spiritually bankrupt, and Moses stood between both worlds. But before he could bring Israel out of Egypt, God had to bring Egypt out of Moses. Let me repeat that. Before you can deliver others, God will strip Egypt out of you. Here's the truth no one wants to hear. God doesn't play favorites. He plays by covenant. He loved Moses, but he would have killed him. He called Moses, but he almost canceled him. Because divine purpose without obedience is rebellion with a microphone. Zipporah's blade saved the mission. The blood on Moses' feet reminded him, you walk this road at a price. You want to be used by God? Good, but understand this. There will be blood. There will be surrender. There will be things you must cut off. And if you won't do it, someone else will. But it will be done because God takes his covenant seriously. And maybe, just maybe, that's why some destinies never rise. Because the ones called refuse to bleed.